We're on.
Hi.
So, Dad, I'm here with Matthew, and we're going to talk to a little bit about your history as a doctor, because
Hi, Matt.
he's
Hi.
doing a project at school called the Box Project, where he's going to select some objects. We haven't selected them yet, and he's going to tell about them to write it down like a museum with a little bit card next to the object explaining the significance of the object. So
That's nice. That's cool.
so one possible object we have here is this old bag. What kind of old bag is this, Papa?
It's not an old bag. It's a medical bag that you don't see these too often. It's like an antique now, because you used to carry this to go see patients. And then in it, you'd have your stethoscope, and you might have other things in it. You might have things to look in your ear, blood pressure cuffs, maybe even some medication.
Now, is that the original bag? Your original bag?
That is the original bag. You will not find it. You can see how it's worn.
When did you buy that bag?
Probably in 1955 or 6.
Do you remember buying it?
No. You buy it at a medical store.
So you bought it when you were in medical school, or after you graduated
no,
med school?
buy it or right after that.
After medical school.
Why don't you show Matthew how
And
to
why
use
did you need a medical bag? Who needs that these days? Everybody,
Well, you made house calls. You go visit a patient,
Right.
and you had to be able to.
You made house calls.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's something that's disappeared.
You used to go to people's houses?
Yes.
Did you really?
Absolutely. In the beginning, absolutely.
when he was in training.
Okay.
No, and even after, remember when I first went in practice, when somebody was having a problem and they weren't quite sure what was happening in their pregnancy, I would go to their house.
Remember the blizzard when the when an ambulance came to get you to
They're
go.
interviewing me,
the
Lord,
patient.
not you.
I'm talking about
That's
you.
okay.
So,
Why doesn't Matthew do the interviewing?
you still have any questions? So now, is that your original stethoscope?
No, the original, that I've had many stethoscopes.
Right.
They sort of wear out after a while and you have to replace them.
And so what does a stethoscope do?
I don't know, Matthew ought to try it one of these days.
What?
You put the earpieces in your ear.
You want to try it?
And
Should Papa try it on you? I think so. See how your heart
and then
is?
you put it against your chest.
I think I'm worried about Matthew's.
Matthew never had an examination?
No, I think his heart is not so good. You don't want to get see how your lungs are doing?
Sometime by himself. You can actually listen to your own heart with it. Put it in your ear, put the device on your chest, and it acts as a sort of magnifies the sound.
Right.
So you can hear clearly. And you can hear your own thump, thump, thump. And then if there's any other sounds that are coming in, the swishes,
Right.
or their valves are not working, a person who is trained can pick these defects up.
So, Papa, I heard that when you were about 11 years old, you decided you wanted to be a doctor, and after that, that was it. You just went on straight path to become a doctor and nothing could stop you. That wasn't the story?
But when I was 11 years old, I had a great science teacher, right? And that
like
science teacher, all right, sort of was my mentor. And so I always thought in terms of some kind of science and things like that. But when I graduated from high school, I went to the Guggenheim School of Aeronautics for 2 years. No, actually 1 year,
After high school.
2 years, right after high school. That was at
college.
NYU. So I was 17 years old when I entered into college. And in that 1 year, I took 2 years worth of aeronautical engineering. I could do wind tunnels, draw wings, things of that kind.
Wow.
But when I was 18 years old, I went into the United States Navy, World War II.
What year was that?
That was 1945,
So,
January of 1945.
so it was like the last year of the war.
Last year of the war, I was only in there for a year and a half, because the war was over in August of 1946 when we defeated Japan. And so I left. I was discharged in about September. of that year.
Where did you do your service?
It's a place called the, oh, let me think about it. It's called the, Great Lakes Naval Hospital in north of Chicago, Illinois.
Not to be confused with the Great Wolf's Lodge.
That's Chicago you know about. But what was I doing in service? That was interesting. Because that was the defining moment of why I became a doctor. Because when I went into service, I was assigned to the medical corps. And my job was as a corpsman. So I was designated hospital corpsman, second class. That's just above a seaman. But when I left, I was a hospital corpsman, first class, right? Advanced. But what we did as hospital corpsmen in Chicago was fly all the way to San Francisco. I was attached to the Naval Air Transport Service. And we would fly the wounded Marines who were coming in from Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, to the Naval Hospital for treatment. So I decided that taking care of people was much better than sitting at a drawing board and drawing wings. Right? So that's what I decided to do.
And then, so then you went to medical school after that?
First, I had to go to college. I had to get all my courses because I was an engineer. I didn't have things like chemistry. You know, you needed chemistry, you needed genetics, and you needed science courses. So I went to Syracuse, and after a couple of years there, I applied to medical school, and I got into medical school. There's some little things, nuances there, and that's it. And after a couple of years in medical school, guess what? Somebody came up to me and said, "Have I got a girl for you?" And I said, "I got a girl." But the next day he came by and he says, "Here's a picture of this girl." And I said, "Oh, she's pretty good looking. Maybe I should go and meet her."
Right.
So I went to her cottage. All right, we called her. I said, "Gee, would you like to go out?" And she said, "Well, we'll see." So she came down, and there was this beautiful woman, a girl coming down the staircase of her cottage. And I said, "Let's go out to dinner, but you have to pay for it yourself."
No, you didn't.
I didn't say that, but you
No,
did.
you paid for it the first
Did
time.
I pay for it the first time?
Yeah.
Ooh, I was very generous. I think a hamburger was $2.50 in those
No.
days.
The whole dinner was like $1.98 or less. $1 maybe.
So, okay, that was the beginning of our romance.
All right. So let's go back to the technology. So has it changed much since the 50s, Dad? Do they still use these stethoscopes?
The stethoscopes pretty much remain the same. There are some sophisticated stethoscopes that are out there, which they have little devices that make the sound even louder. But that's it. It's all in the training of the cardiologist or the practitioner who's listening to you. We learned that in medical school. Even Matthew, if Matthew could put that in his ear someday, listen to his heart, listen to your heart could be different than his, the beat will be different, your time, how often that beat is happening, and you can hear different sounds when you hold your breath. You can listen to your chest, breathing. Breathe in, breathe out, the doctor tells you. He's listening to see if the chests are clear, your lungs are clear. Also, you can listen to arteries right in your neck, which are close to the surface, and make sure that the blood that's going through there is going through without having any obstruction. So there are a lot of things you can do with the stethoscope, but those are the three.
What kind of doctor were you?
Oh, I was a good doctor.
That kind of doctor.
Yeah, that's the most important.
What was your specialty?
Well, my specialty was taking care of women, right? Either have women and all of their problems, no matter what it is, I took care of it.
When you delivered babies?
Delivered babies, did surgery.
How many babies do you think you delivered?
Oh, well, personally, I probably delivered a couple of thousand. but I was responsible because I was an assistant professor of my specialty at 2 hospitals. So we were supervising people in training, watching them deliver. So maybe altogether, including that, about 10,000. I always figured. That's a lot of
10,000.
babies. A lot of babies. But that was only one portion. We did a lot of surgery. We did a lot of examinations. We took care of a lot of diseases that that women are prone to. But
2 questions.
Okay.
So 2 questions were, how did you decide to go to medical school?
well, I think I answered
You
that by
did?
saying that I was in service and I was a hospital corpsman and I liked dealing with people rather than being an aeronautical engineer. That was the main
okay.
thing.
And how did you pick your specialty?
That's very interesting. It was not easy to pick the specialty. I was interested in pediatrics. I went and looked at a pediatric ward, and I wasn't too happy with all the problems that children had, and I would much preferred, children don't talk to you. It's like Matthew when he doesn't talk to me, you know. So children don't talk to you so often, and it's hard to communicate if nobody's talking to you. You don't get your ideas across. There's no mutual exchange. So I discarded pediatrics. And because where I was training, we had a relative who was in obstetrics and gynecology. He was very happy with what he was doing, and I was watching what he was doing. I liked dealing with adults, and I liked the fact that it was a happy specialty, because when you deliver a baby, what could be more joyous when you have that little baby in your arms, and you have a happy father, and you have a happy mother, and it's not like a disease, it's like a fantastic event. I love that. So, and that was one of the reasons I chose that.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to. Any more questions?
So where did you do your residency?
At the second best hospital in New York City, which was Maimonides Hospital
Oh, yeah, it's still
in
there.
Brooklyn,
What was the first?
was Mount Sinai.
Okay.
They didn't take me.
Okay.
But I got into the second one. Mount Sinai was very hard to get into. Right? But, so I was very lucky to get into Mount Sinai in Brooklyn, and that's where I went.
And then where did you start practicing medicine?
And on Long Island.
Right? In the
Right
house?
away. Yeah, right in Birchwood Park Drive.
19
Old
Birchwood Park
Town.
Drive.
Yeah.
And so right in the house is where you started a private practice?
We built an office in the house. We took the garage, converted it into offices, and then I joined the practice. Then we gave that up. So,
Then you went for another practice,
right.
another
skip-
partner.
So, and then the main practice was what's known as Ostrite, Mason, and Edinger, but that's not important.
Right.
It was a big practice. We enjoyed really a very good practice.
And then Mason and Edinger.
Then Mason and Edinger.
All right. Any more questions, Matt?
No.
Okay.